If you build it, he will come. A classic line from a great movie. But what's Kevin Costner's character really hearing in Field of Dreams? He's hearing, take action, get result. It's setting a goal, right? I'm Grant with Cavalier Coaching and Consulting. We're going to take a fresh look at goals. We're going to diagram it out. We're going to show you what it looks like to hit a goal, to set a goal, what influences a goal, what to watch for, some of the unintended and intended things that happen when you set your goal. When you set your goal, you're saying, this is exactly what I want, but by default, you're also saying, this is what I don't want. This is what's not important. This is not what's aligning with what I want. So, how do we get from where you are now to where you want to be? To get different, do different. When you do different, you put yourself in a different situation, a position you've never been in before. Some would say that's a position of uncomfort, discomfort. Well, that's where learnings are. That's where you get to level up. That's where you get to the next stage. That's where you get to take your dreams, where you are now, and get to where you want to be faster than you would without a goal. So if learning is where we need to start, learning is where we shall begin. Abraham Maslow gave us the 4 stages of learning, and they look a little something like this. We start with unconscious incompetence. Basically, that's saying you don't know what you don't know, and you're not good at what you don't know. Pretty obvious, right? So we have our unconscious incompetence. Next, we have our conscious incompetence. This is a lot like the first time you heard a foreign language and somebody came up to you and said something and you don't know if they were asking you a question or telling you to get out of the way of a car. You have no idea what was going on, but you're aware of this language that you didn't know otherwise. So now you are consciously incompetent. Next, you've been in this country for a little bit, you're starting to get it, you watch the cartoons, you've done the flashcards, and it takes a little effort, but you can order that hamburger at the restaurant. You are now consciously competent. Lastly, you've been in the country for a while, you've heard the language, you've heard it, you've been immersed, you finally get it. You don't have to think about what you're saying or what you're hearing. It just translates, you get it. You start dreaming in that language, right? So now you are unconsciously competent. You'll notice that these begin to form a line. This also seems to mirror very well what Ebbinghaus gave us in our learning curve. Now, what most people don't realize is if you have a learning curve, you have an equal and opposite reaction. You have a forgetting curve. So the learning curve, a lot of people, if you look at it from an XY axis, right? A lot of people look at it as this upward slope. Well, it becomes an upward slope and it starts to bend back around. It looks a lot more like this. You're never going to go back to unconscious incompetence. You'll always stay conscious incompetence if you forget almost everything that you knew, but you've always known about it, if that makes sense, right? As you learn, that implies time. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes, days, weeks, months, years, whatever the case may be, however big or grand that goal is, whatever the learning you need to achieve to get to that position, that next level, applies. So as you learn, your level of mastery also increases. Again, slowly to start, but then it starts to spike. And your level of mastery will look a lot like this. Until it clicks. Until you're unconsciously competent, you're mastered it, you've spent the most amount of time, you've hit your goal. Unequivocally, no questions asked. Now, you may hit your goal here, or here, or even here. But without a shadow of a doubt, you've hit your goal here. You have to set checks and balances. A lot of people say you want to quantify it because numbers are easy to definitively say, yes, I've hit my goal. This is when you need to realize that you've hit your goal. If you don't realize you've hit your goal, a couple of things will happen. One of 3 things will happen, to be exact. You're going to either enter a relapse loop. Benjamin Franklin described it as opportunity loss. It's also been described as law of diminishing returns. Your time invested is not worth the reward that you're getting for it. So you have intended and unintended relapse loops. Your unintended relapse loop is when you've hit your goal and you don't realize it. We're so hard on ourselves. There are so many aspects of our life that we've hit our goal, we just haven't even realized it. We haven't given ourselves credit because it didn't happen exactly the way we wanted it to. It didn't happen as big as we wanted it to. But we've hit our goal. It's time to move on. Take inventory of where you are and what you want. They might align, and it might be time to move on. So if you don't realize it, you're going to take another loop around this relapse loop. And it's going to present itself to you again. It's going to stare you in the face and say, you hit your goal, move on. Do you realize it or not? Now, you also have intentional relapse loops. Tisk, tisk. If you hit your goal and you become content, pains me to even say that, but you become content. I really wanted to get to this position within my company. I hit it. I'm there. I got it. I'm good. I don't need to grow. Yes, you do. And here's why. This timeline also acts like a market. Whatever marketplace your goal is set in, you have to understand that this is going to increase by somewhere around 3%. So if you're in your relapse loops, you're content, intended, unintendedly, you're in a relapse loop, this marketplace is slowly but surely nipping at your heels, and it's gonna catch up to you and it's gonna pass you by. When it passes you by, you're gonna take a step back and you say, what happened? I was cruising along. All of a sudden I just got passed by some younger guy, some younger girl. Didn't see that one coming. It's been staring you at the face. Realize it. Take inventory. Now, when that happens, you're gonna get forced out of your relapse loop. Forced out. And when you're forced out of your position, you get what you get. You don't get to decide where you want to go or what you want to do, right? If you choose to recognize you're in a relapse loop, you can build a plan. You can acquire the knowledge you need, the tools you want to get to that next stage, get out of that relapse loop, and shoot off to your next goal. If you realize you've hit your goal, which you should because it's measurable, you use this to propel you to your next goal. Now, if this goal that you're setting, that you're looking at, doesn't create more options for you, or it doesn't create more opportunities for you, maybe that's not a goal for you. Maybe you need to revise, rethink, adapt what your goal is. Maybe that's a goal somebody said that you should get, but it doesn't really align with you. And if that's the case, stop, think about what you're doing, and say, is this really what I want? Is this really the direction I want to go? Or do I need to start over, enter back into the unconscious incompetence, set a goal that I want, and go there? Goal setting for you should be for you and only you. This is where it's okay to be selfish. Take ownership of where you're heading, because otherwise the market's going to force you out. You get what you get, and you got where you got by doing something you didn't even want to do. If you're going to be forced out, at least do something you want to do, a goal that is for you. So we have our learning curve, we have our forgetting curve, we have our baseline that we will never go back below, we have our market that's always increasing, catching up to us, chasing us, after us, we have our levels of learning, and we have our time. Now, I believe that we all set goals with every intention of hitting them, but we don't always get there. Why? Why don't we? When we, man, I really want this. I wrote it everywhere. This is exactly what I'm gonna get. This is exactly how I'm gonna do it. But you don't get there. This is what everybody thinks goals look like. Looks something like this. Right? No. They look a lot more like this. You're fired up, you're amped up, you just set your goal, you wrote it down, you've talked about it, you've put it out there, you've let the universe know what's going on, and you're fired up, and you get started, and you're starting out right up here. Then you hit your first obstacle. No problem, got this. You're back on track, you're going, you're moving. Then you hit a major obstacle, a major hurdle, and you start backtracking. This is way harder than I thought it'd be. Do I really want this goal? And you start to question yourself, and you take a break. And one day you wake up and you say, I want that goal. I'm going to go back and get it. And you get back on track. And maybe you're starting right back here and you've regressed because you've lost all that momentum. But you're bent and determined on getting there. And you have a little one, and then you get there. And when you get there, you understand exactly where you are because you've set it. You know what's going to happen, and you get there. And that propels you to your next goal, your next option available to you. A great man told me many, many times, put yourself in a position to win, which is this area here, and you might just win. Put yourself in a position to win, and you might just win. That starts by setting a plan, making it known to the universe. When you make your goal, your dreams, your wants, your desires known to the universe, something pretty cool happens. You have the belly of this goal, your mastery and your learning. When it's the biggest and you're really pushing forward, you're pressing and you're moving and you're grinding, you're gritting your teeth and you're getting there. You have your setbacks, you fight through. When you get past this point, I can't tell you when this point will happen, but you'll realize it because things will start aligning for you. Things will start coming to you. It'll get easier. Not easy, easier. Don't miss that word, right? Easier. And things will start pulling you towards that goal. So understand when that happens too, right? We have to have all these realizations. We have to stay consciously aware of what's going on and how we're tracking on our goals. So how do we get from where you are now to where you want to be faster than you would on your own? We have to recognize these time gaps where you spend time regressing and then catching back up. We don't have to dip as low as we probably would and backtrack as much as we probably would because there's going to be a learning and we can bridge this gap. And instead of stopping and starting again, you just keep pressing forward and we keep going and we keep this upward trajectory. And then we realize when we get our goal, we move on to the next. So how do we get from where you are now to where you want to be? Take the first step. Pick up the phone, give us a call. We'll help you get from where you are now to where you want to be. Anything is possible.